Admiral Park Do-hyun stood at the window of Earth's orbital command center, watching the blue planet spin slowly below. He had served in the fleet for 40 years. And in all that time, he had never fired a weapon at another living being. His white gloves, the symbol of Earth's peacekeeping fleet, had never been stained with blood. He was proud of this fact. Every officer in the fleet was proud of this fact. For 300 years, humanity had been members of the Galactic Cooperative. They had earned their place not through conquest or intimidation, but through kindness. When the Rithani people faced a plague that killed millions, Earth sent doctors and medicine. When the Korvax system suffered crop failures, Earth sent seeds and farming technology. When the Bellari homeworld ran out of energy, Earth shared fusion reactor designs without asking for anything in return. Humanity believed that the universe would reward kindness with kindness. They believed that if they showed other species what cooperation could achieve, everyone would want to cooperate. For 300 years, this belief had guided every decision Earth made. But not everyone in the galaxy shared this belief. Ambassador Kim Yuna entered the command center with a tablet in her hand. Her face was calm, but Park had known her for 20 years. He could see the worry in her eyes. "The Velthari Dominion has sent their response," she said. Park turned from the window. "What do they want?" "3 of our colony worlds. New Busan, Jindo Prime, and the Hainam settlement. They want us to surrender them within 30 days, or they will take them by force." Park felt something cold settle in his stomach. The Velthari Dominion was the most aggressive empire in the known galaxy. They had conquered 60 star systems through war and terror. Their soldiers were brutal, their weapons were powerful, and their leaders believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. "Have they given a reason?" Park asked. "They say we are weak. They say we don't deserve those worlds. They say that strength should rule. And we have no strength." Park closed his eyes for a moment. 3 colony worlds, 12 million human beings, families, children, farmers, teachers, doctors. The Velthari wanted to take them like they were pieces on a game board. "We should speak to the council," Yuna said. "We can ask the cooperative to intervene." Park shook his head slowly. "The council won't help us. You know this. They're afraid of the Velthari. Everyone is afraid of the Velthari. Then what do we do?" Park looked at his white gloves. "We do what we always do. We try to make peace." No. 3 days later, the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Dawn left Earth orbit. It was a beautiful ship, designed to show humanity's best qualities. Its hull was painted with images of Earth's mountains and oceans. Its interior was filled with gifts for the Velthari: art, music, food, technology. Everything humanity could offer in the hope of avoiding war. Captain Lee Taman commanded the ship. He was young for a captain, only 35 years old, but he had been chosen for his skill in negotiation. He had resolved disputes between colony worlds, calmed tensions between rival factions, and built friendships with dozens of alien species. If anyone could convince the Velthari to accept peace, it was Lee Taman. "Captain," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a signal from the Velthari fleet." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and a Velthari commander appeared. The Velthari were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces showed no emotion, but their eyes were cold and calculating. "Human vessel," the commander said, "you have entered Velthari space. State your purpose." Captain Lee stood straight and spoke clearly. "I am Captain Lee Taman, of the Earth vessel Harmony's Dawn. We come in peace, carrying gifts and a message of friendship. We wish to speak with your leaders about finding a solution that benefits both our peoples." The Velthari commander stared at him for a long moment. Then, he made a sound that might have been laughter. "You come with gifts? You think we want your gifts? We told you what we want. We want your worlds. We want your people to serve us. We want your resources. That is the only solution. Please, Captain Lee said. There must be another way. We have so much to offer each other. Our medical technology could help your people. Our agricultural systems could feed your colonies. We could be partners instead of enemies. Partners? The commander's voice dripped with contempt. We do not want partners. We want slaves. And you will make excellent slaves. You are soft. You are weak. You have no fight in you. We choose not to fight. That doesn't mean we cannot fight. The commander leaned forward. Then show me. Show me what humanity can do. Captain Lee took a deep breath. We will not. We came here for peace. Only peace. Then you will die in peace. The screen went dark. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge of the Harmony's dawn. Then the alarms began to scream. Captain! The sensor officer shouted. Weapons lock! They're targeting us! Captain Lee looked at his crew. 15 people who had volunteered for this mission. 15 people who believed in peace so much that they were willing to risk their lives for it. Send a message to Earth, he said quietly. Tell them we tried. The first missile struck the Harmony's dawn 3 seconds later. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire. 15 lives ended in an instant. The Velthari broadcast the destruction across the galaxy, letting everyone see what happened to those who were weak. On Earth, Admiral Park Do-hyun watched the recording in the main council chamber. Ambassador Kim Yuna stood beside him, tears running down her face. The other council members sat in shocked silence. The recording ended. The screen went dark. No one spoke. Park looked down at his white gloves. For 40 years, he had worn them with pride. They meant that he was a man of peace. They meant that he believed in the goodness of other beings. They meant that he would always try to find another way. He pulled the gloves off his hands and set them on the table. Admiral? Yuna whispered. Park looked at the council. His voice was steady, but there was something new in his eyes. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. For 300 years, we have shown the galaxy our kindness. We have given them our medicine, our food, our technology, our trust. We have shown them the best of what humanity can be. He paused. They have chosen to see this as weakness. They have chosen to murder our people. They have chosen to reject our hand of friendship. He turned to his aide. Contact all colony worlds, activate Protocol Prometheus, and wake the sleepers. Yuna's face went pale. Do-hyun, are you sure? We tried harmony, Park said. We will always try harmony first. But they have made their choice. Now they will meet the other side of humanity. He walked out of the council chamber. Behind him, the white gloves lay on the table. Abandoned. The age of open hands was over. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a facility that appeared on no map, General Choi Sun-ho waited for the elevator to reach the bottom level. The ride took 4 minutes. The facility was that deep. When the doors opened, he stepped into a corridor lined with cold blue lights. His footsteps echoed against the metal floor. He had walked this corridor many times over the years, but he had always hoped he would never need to walk it for this reason. At the end of the corridor, Dr. Baek Jisoo was waiting for him. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent her entire career working on a project she prayed would never be used. General, she said, I received the order. I wanted to confirm it with you personally. It's confirmed. Admiral Park has authorized full activation of Project Prometheus. Dr. Baek closed her eyes for a moment. I see. Doctor, I know this is difficult, but we need to know, is everything ready? She opened her eyes and nodded. It's ready. It's been ready for 200 years. We've maintained every system, updated every weapon, trained every backup crew. We just hoped. We all hoped, Sun-ho said. But hope isn't enough anymore. She led him through a massive door into a chamber that stretched for kilometers. The ceiling was so high, It disappeared into darkness. And filling the chamber, row after row after row, were warships, not the peaceful vessels that humanity showed the galaxy. These were something else entirely. Black hulls covered with weapons, engines designed for speed and power, ships built for one purpose: to destroy anything that threatened humanity. The Prometheus fleet, Dr. Bake said. 3,000 vessels, hidden in facilities like this one across human space. We have more in the asteroid belts, in the gas giants, in locations that no alien has ever seen. General Choi walked along the rows, looking up at the massive ships. And the weapons? Railguns that fire projectiles at 1/3 the speed of light, gravity lances that can crush a ship's hull from the inside, EMP systems that can kill the electronics of an entire fleet, and the Ghostfire missiles. Those are the ones that pass through shields. Yes, we studied every defensive technology in the galaxy. We found ways through all of them. We just never told anyone. General Choi stopped walking. He had known about these weapons his entire military career. But seeing them now, knowing they would finally be used, made his chest feel tight. Why? He asked quietly. Why did we build all this if we wanted peace? Dr. Bake stood beside him. Because we remember what we are. Humanity nearly destroyed itself in the Third World War. We know what we're capable of when we're pushed too far. We decided to pursue peace because we knew what the alternative was. But we also knew that someday, someone might not give us a choice. So we prepared. And we prayed we were wrong about the universe. They left the ship chamber and walked to another part of the facility. This section was even colder. Frost covered the walls. Their breath came out in white clouds. The Lazarus program, Dr. Bake said, as she opened the final door. Inside were rows of cryogenic pods, stretching as far as the eye could see. 50,000 pods. And inside each one, a human being slept. Enhanced soldiers, Dr. Bake explained. Their bones have been hardened with carbon fiber. Their reflexes are 3 times faster than normal humans. They have tactical computers implanted in their brains. They can survive in vacuum for 10 minutes. They can fight for days without sleep. General Choi walked between the pods, looking at the faces of the sleeping soldiers. Men and women who had volunteered for this duty centuries ago. They had agreed to sleep through the years of peace, to miss their entire lives, just in case they were needed. They're heroes, he said. And no one even knows they exist. That was the point. The galaxy sees farmers and doctors and artists. They don't see this. Known. They stopped at one pod near the center of the chamber. The woman inside had a calm face. But even in sleep, there was something dangerous about her. Something that said she was not someone to be challenged. Commander Yoon Hana, Dr. Bake said. Leader of the sleepers. She was the best soldier humanity ever produced. She volunteered for the program on one condition: that she would only be awakened if there was no other choice. Wake her, General Choi said. Dr. Bake entered commands into the pod's control panel. Lights flickered, steam hissed, as the pod began to warm. After several minutes, the lid opened. Commander Yoon Hana opened her eyes. They were dark and alert, showing no confusion or disorientation. She sat up, looked at General Choi and Dr. Bake, and took a slow breath. How long did peace last? She asked. 300 years, General Choi replied. That's longer than I expected. She climbed out of the pod and stood at attention. Her body was lean and muscular, showing no weakness from centuries of sleep. Who is the enemy? The Velthari Dominion. They destroyed a diplomatic vessel and killed 15 of our people. They're demanding the surrender of 3 colony worlds. And we're refusing. Commander Yoon nodded slowly. What are my orders? Prepare your soldiers. We expect the Velthari to attack within 3 weeks. We'll be ready in 3 days. General Choi looked at her with something like awe. He had trained his entire life, but he knew he was nothing compared to her. None of them were. "Commander," he said, "the galaxy thinks we're weak. They think we can't fight." For the first time, a small smile crossed Yunhana's face. It was not a warm smile. "Then we'll correct that mistake." Across human space, the transformation began. Factories that had made farming equipment began making weapons. Shipyards that had built cargo vessels began building warships. Mining stations that had extracted metals for construction began producing ammunition. The change happened so fast that Velthari spies couldn't believe their reports. They sent messages back to the Dominion, saying there must be an error. These were humans. Peaceful humans. Weak humans. They couldn't possibly be building a war machine this powerful. But they were. Admiral Park Do-hyun oversaw the preparations from his command ship, the Retribution. It was one of the largest vessels in the Prometheus fleet, bristling with weapons that had never been fired outside of testing. He wore black now instead of white. The change felt strange, but also right. Dr. Bake visited him on the bridge one evening. She looked out at the fleet, assembling around them hundreds of black ships, preparing for war. "Admiral," she said, "may I speak freely?" "Always. We built all of this, hoping we would never use it. We wanted to be wrong about the universe. We wanted to believe that kindness would be enough. I know. Now we're going to unleash it. And once we do, the galaxy will never look at us the same way again. They'll fear us." Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, they will. But Doctor, there are 12 million people on those colony worlds. Families, children, people who trusted us to protect them. If fear is the price of their survival, then we'll pay it. And afterward? When the war is over? Afterward, we offer peace again. We always offer peace. But now, they'll know what happens if they refuse." A message came through from Commander Yunhana. Her soldiers were awake and ready. 50,000 enhanced warriors, who had slept for centuries, were now preparing for battle. The Velthari Dominion had demanded 3 worlds. They expected humanity to surrender or die. They had no idea what they had awakened. Warlord Thaxos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror's Pride, and watched his fleet move through space. 800 warships, each one filled with soldiers who lived for battle. It was the largest invasion force the Velthari Dominion had assembled in 50 years, and they were going to use it against farmers. Thaxos felt almost insulted. He had conquered 12 worlds in his career. He had fought enemies with advanced weapons and powerful fleets. Now his commanders had sent him to attack humans, a species that refused to fight. It was like sending a warrior to crush insects. "Warlord," his tactical officer said, "we are entering the New Busan system. We should reach the colony in 6 hours. Any sign of defense? Our scouts report nothing. The humans appear to be evacuating the civilian population." "Evacuating?" Thaxos laughed. "They're running away. I told the council this would be easy." His lieutenant, a younger Velthari named Koros, looked uncertain. "Warlord, should we not be cautious? The humans have had 300 years to prepare defenses. They might be hiding something." "Hiding something?" "These are the same humans who came to us with gifts and begged for peace. They have no defenses. They have no weapons. They have nothing but words and weakness." Koros nodded but didn't look convinced. The fleet continued forward. They passed the outer planets of the system without incident. They passed the asteroid belt without incident. They approached New Busan, a beautiful green world with 3 moons, and saw nothing but empty space. "You see?" Thaxos said. "Nothing. They've abandoned the world. We won't even need to fight." Then the first moon exploded. Not literally exploded, but it seemed that way. Hidden platforms on the moon's surface suddenly activated, revealing weapons that had been buried for centuries. Railguns began firing, sending metal projectiles toward the Velthari fleet at incredible speed. The first 10 ships were destroyed before anyone could react. They simply vanished, torn apart by projectiles they never saw coming. "What is happening?" Thaxos roared. "Return fire." "We're trying, Warlord. The platforms are heavily armored. Our weapons can't penetrate." More projectiles came. 20 more ships were destroyed. 30. The Velthari fleet began to scatter, trying to escape the barrage. "Fall back," Thaxos commanded. "Move out of range." But as the fleet retreated, more weapons activated. Platforms in the asteroid belt. Platforms on the other moons. Platforms hidden in space stations that had looked like civilian outposts. Within minutes, the Velthari fleet was surrounded by weapons firing from every direction. And then the human ships arrived. They came out of nowhere, appearing on sensors with no warning. 200 vessels, all of them black, all of them bristling with weapons that Thaxos had never seen before. They moved in perfect formation, with a precision that spoke of incredible discipline and training. "Where did they come from?" Koros whispered. "These aren't civilian ships. These are warships. Real warships." The human fleet opened fire. The first weapon was something the Velthari had no name for. It fired a beam of distorted gravity that hit a Velthari cruiser and crushed it like a piece of paper. The ship simply crumpled, as if a giant hand had squeezed it into a ball. "What was that?" Thaxos shouted. "What kind of weapon does that?" "Cross." No one could answer him. The second weapon was an EMP cascade. A single missile exploded in the middle of a Velthari formation, and suddenly every ship in that formation went dark. Engines stopped. Weapons stopped. Life support stopped. 30 ships instantly turned into metal coffins. The third weapon was the worst. The humans called them Ghostfire missiles. They passed directly through the Velthari shields, as if the shields weren't there. The shields that had protected Velthari ships for centuries were completely useless. "Impossible," Koros said. "They can't go through shields. Nothing goes through shields." But the missiles did. Ship after ship was hit. The Velthari fleet, which had entered the system with 800 vessels, was being torn apart. Thaxos watched his forces die and felt something he had never felt before in battle. Fear. "Warlord," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." The screen flickered, and a human face appeared. It was Admiral Park Do-hyun. He wore a black uniform, and his eyes were cold and hard. "This is Admiral Park Do-hyun of Earth's Defense Fleet. You came to our space to conquer our people. You came believing we were weak. You were wrong." Thaxos tried to respond, but Park continued speaking. "We offered you peace. We offered you partnership. We offered you everything we had. You chose war. So now you have war. But I want you to understand something. Warlord, we don't want to destroy you. We never wanted that. Even now, if you withdraw your forces and return to your own space, we will let you go." Thaxos felt rage burning in his chest. Withdraw? Be humiliated? Never. "We are Velthari," he shouted. "We do not retreat. We do not surrender. We will destroy you." Admiral Park's expression didn't change. "Then you will die." The transmission ended. The battle lasted 6 more hours. The Velthari fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. Every tactic they tried, the humans countered. Every weapon they fired, the humans blocked or avoided. It was as if the humans knew exactly what the Velthari would do before they did it, because they did. For 300 years, while being kind and generous to the galaxy, humanity had also been studying every species, every weapon, every tactic. They had prepared for every possible enemy. They had planned for every possible scenario. The Velthari had come to crush farmers. Instead, they had walked into a trap set by predators. When the battle finally ended, the results were devastating. 312 Velthari ships were destroyed. 247 were captured. The rest fled, limping back toward Dominion space with damaged engines and broken weapons. Warlord Thaxos survived. His flagship was captured, and he was taken aboard the human vessel Retribution to face Admiral Park. He expected to be tortured. He expected to be executed. That was what the Velthari did to captured enemies. Instead, they gave him medical treatment for his wounds. They gave him food and water. They let him send a message to his family, telling them he was alive. Why? Thaxos demanded when Admiral Park came to see him. Why are you doing this? We tried to destroy you. Yes, you did. Then why are you being kind? Admiral Park looked at him for a long moment. Because we don't become what we fight. You tried to make us into monsters. You failed. He turned to leave, then stopped. You should send a message to the Dominion warlord. Tell them what you saw today. Tell them what human weapons can do. And tell them this. We will always try peace first. Always. But if peace is rejected, we will end any threat to our people. Any threat at all. Thaxos sent the message. His hands were shaking as he recorded it. They were never weak, he said. They were waiting. They let us think they were helpless because they didn't want to fight. But they were always ready. They were always prepared. We woke something that should have been left sleeping. The message spread across the Dominion. Within days, the entire galaxy had heard about the Battle of New Busan. The species that had looked down on humanity for 300 years suddenly saw them differently. They saw the truth. Admiral Park broadcast his own message to the galaxy. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath the words. We came to you with medicine. You wanted blood. We came with food. You wanted conquest. We offered our hand. You cut it off. So be it. You will meet the other side of humanity now. 6 months had passed since the Battle of New Busan. The war had spread across dozens of star systems, and humanity was winning. Every battle ended the same way: Velthari forces destroyed or captured, human forces moving forward. But Lieutenant Kang Mireille was not celebrating. She stood on the bridge of the cruiser Dawn's Light, watching the aftermath of their latest victory. Dozens of Velthari ships drifted dead in space. Some were burning, some were broken into pieces, and among the wreckage, escape pods floated, filled with survivors waiting to be rescued. Lieutenant, her captain said, begin rescue operations. Bring the survivors aboard. Lieutenant, yes, sir. Mireille had joined the fleet 1 year ago, just before the war started. She had trained her whole life for this, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The killing, the destruction, the fear in the eyes of enemies who had thought they were invincible. She took a shuttle to the escape pods and began bringing Velthari survivors back to the Dawn's Light. They were terrified of her. They expected to be beaten, tortured, killed. Instead, she brought them to the medical bay, where human doctors treated their wounds. I don't understand, one Velthari soldier said to her. He was young, maybe the equivalent of 20 human years. We tried to conquer your worlds. We tried to enslave your people. Why are you helping us? Mireille didn't have an answer. She just did her job. Later that day, she was transferred to Admiral Park's flagship, the Retribution, for a special assignment. She didn't know why she had been chosen. She was nobody special, just a junior officer doing her duty. Admiral Park met her in his office. He looked tired. The war was taking a toll on him, even though humanity was winning. Lieutenant Kang, he said. You've been asking questions. Mireille felt her stomach tighten. Sir? Your captain tells me you've been questioning our methods. You've been asking why we treat the enemy with kindness. Why we heal them, feed them, let them contact their families. Mireille swallowed. You didn't cause trouble. You asked good questions. That's why I brought you here. He gestured for her to sit. Ask me. She hesitated. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since the war started. Admiral, why don't we hate them? They killed Captain Lee and the crew of the Harmony's Dawn. They wanted to enslave our people. They still want to destroy us. Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to his window. looking out at the stars. Do you know why we pursued peace for 300 years, Lieutenant? Because we believe in cooperation and harmony. Yes, but that's not the only reason. He turned to face her. We pursued peace because we know what we're capable of when we don't. Humanity nearly destroyed itself in the Third World War. We burned our own cities. We killed billions of our own people. We came within a hair's width of extinction. Mireille had learned about the war in school, but it had always seemed distant, ancient history. After that war, Park continued, we made a choice. We decided to be better. We decided to build instead of destroy, to heal instead of hurt, to give instead of take. We chose to show the universe the best of humanity. But that's not all we are. No, it's not. His eyes were hard. We are also killers. We are conquerors. We are destroyers. That's what the Velthari woke up when they rejected our peace. That's the other side of humanity. He sat back down across from her. We don't hate them because hate would turn us into what they are. We show mercy because mercy is what separates us from the monsters we could become. We destroy their military because their military is a threat, but we don't destroy their people. Because their people are not our enemies. Do you understand? Mireille thought about it. She thought about the young Velthari soldier who couldn't understand why she helped him. She thought about her own anger, her own desire for revenge after the Harmony's dawn. I think I do, sir. Good. Because this war will end someday. And when it does, we're going to have to live with what we did. I want to live with it. I want to look in the mirror and know that we fought this war the right way. He stood and walked to the door. Come with me. I want you to see something. He led her to a holding area where Velthari prisoners were being kept. But it didn't look like a prison. The prisoners had beds, food, medical care, and communication devices to talk to their families. Some were reading, some were playing games, some were just talking to each other. And walking among them, checking on their needs and answering their questions, was Commander Yoon Hana. Mireille felt a shock go through her. She knew who Yoon Hana was. Everyone in the fleet knew. She was the deadliest soldier humanity had ever produced. She had killed more Velthari in this war than any other person. Watching her move through the prisoners with calm efficiency, you would never guess that she was a living weapon. Commander, Admiral Park said. Yoon Hana walked over to them. Her movements were graceful and precise, like a predator that was completely in control of itself. Admiral, Lieutenant, the lieutenant has questions about mercy, Park said. Yoon Hana looked at Mireille with dark, unreadable eyes. What questions? Mireille felt intimidated, but she forced herself to speak. Commander, you've killed hundreds of Velthari in battle, maybe thousands. But here you are, taking care of their prisoners. I don't understand how you can do both. Yoon Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Come with me. She led Mireille to a corner of the holding area where a young Velthari girl was sitting alone. She was tiny, maybe 10 years old in human terms. Her arm was in a cast, and her eyes were red from crying. Her name is something we can't pronounce, Yoon Hana said. She was on a civilian transport that got caught in the crossfire. Her parents were killed. She's alone. Mireille felt her heart ache. The girl was just a child. She hadn't started this war. She hadn't hurt anyone. Yoon Hana knelt down next to the girl and spoke softly in the Velthari language. The girl looked up at her with fear at first, then confusion, then something like hope. Yoon Hana said something else, and the girl nodded slowly. What did you tell her? Mireille asked. I told her that we're going to find her family, and until then, we'll take care of her. They walked away, leaving the girl with a human nurse who brought her food and a blanket. Lieutenant, Yoon Hana said, I've killed many Velthari. I'll kill many more before this war is over. That's my duty. Offer him the fard naist one that. Our mentrum line. Our manger. Our menger. Our manger. Our menger. Our menger. But every single one of them was a soldier trying to kill me or my people. That girl is not a soldier. Those prisoners in there are not soldiers anymore. They're just people. But doesn't it make you angry? What they tried to do to us? Yes. It makes me very angry. Yoon? Hana's voice was flat and cold. But anger doesn't give me the right to hurt people who can't fight back. Nothing gives me that right. That's the line. Once you cross it, you can't come back. Mireille thought about the young soldier she had rescued. She thought about the fear in his eyes when he expected to be killed. I think I understand now, she said. Good. Hold on to that understanding. When the war is over, it's the only thing that will let you sleep at night. Mireille returned to the dawn's light that evening. The next day, they went back into battle. More Velthari ships destroyed. More prisoners rescued. More kindness shown to enemies who had never shown kindness to anyone. But she didn't question it anymore. She understood now what Admiral Park and Commander Yoon had been telling her. Humanity was showing the galaxy both sides of itself. The side that could destroy fleets and conquer worlds, and the side that could heal wounds and comfort children. That was what made them human. That was what made them strong. 1 year after the destruction of the Harmony's dawn, the war was over. The Velthari Dominion had collapsed. Not because humanity had destroyed it, but because its own people had risen up against the military leaders who had started the war. Civilians who had spent their lives under brutal rule saw how humanity treated prisoners, how they healed the wounded, how they fed the hungry. And they asked themselves, why don't our own leaders treat us this way? The revolution spread across Velthari space in weeks. Military bases were surrounded by crowds demanding peace. Warships were abandoned by crews who refused to fight anymore. And the warlords who had ruled with fear for centuries found themselves facing the anger of their own people. A new government formed, led by a reformist named Chancellor Cephas. Her first act was to send a message to Earth, asking for peace. Admiral Park Do-hyun received the message on the bridge of the Retribution. He read it twice, then handed it to Ambassador Kim Yuna, who had come aboard for this moment. It's over, she said quietly. Almost, Park replied. We still have to decide what happens next. You know what I'm going to recommend? Yes, and I agree with you. They held the peace conference on a neutral station in the Korvax system. Delegates from both sides met in a large hall, with representatives from the Galactic Cooperative watching from the sides. Chancellor Cephas was tall and thin, with gray skin marked by scars from years of opposing the old regime. She looked at Admiral Park across the table, with something like awe. Admiral, she said, I must be honest with you. When I sent the peace message, I expected you to refuse. I expected you to demand our complete surrender, to take our worlds, our resources, our people. That is what we would have done if we had won. I know, Park said, but instead, you asked for this. She gestured at the peace document in front of her. No occupation, no punishment. You're even offering to help us rebuild the worlds that were damaged in the fighting. Yes. Why? Park was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he spoke. Chancellor, 300 years ago, humanity joined the galactic community hoping to find friends. We brought everything we had to offer. Our medicine, our technology, our food, our culture. We held nothing back. We wanted to show the universe that cooperation was better than conflict, that kindness was stronger than cruelty. And we tried to take advantage of that, Cephas said. Some of you did, and we responded. We showed you the other side of humanity, the side that can destroy fleets and break empires. We want to go back to being the people who came to the stars with open hands. That's why we're offering you this peace. Chancellor Cephas looked at him for a long time. Then she signed the document. The war was officially over. Over the following months, humanity kept its promises. They sent doctors to Velthari worlds where the medical system had collapsed. They sent engineers to rebuild power plants and water systems. They sent teachers to schools that had been closed for years. They gave and gave and gave, just as they had done before the war. But this time, no one mistook their kindness for weakness. Commander Yoon Hana stood in the stasis facility, looking at her pod. The war was over, and she had volunteered to return to cryogenic sleep. All of the sleepers had. They had been awakened to do a job, and the job was done. Lieutenant Kang Mirai came to see her off. "Commander," Mirai said, "thank you for everything you taught me." "You taught yourself, Lieutenant. I just pointed you in the right direction." Mirai hesitated. "Do you think you'll be needed again? Do you think another species will make the same mistake the Velthari made?" I. Yoon Hana looked at her pod, then back at Mirai. "I hope not. I hope we sleep forever. But if we're needed, we'll be here." She placed a hand on the young officer's shoulder. "Take care of humanity while we're gone. Remind people who we are. Both sides of who we are." "I will." Commander Yoon climbed into her pod. The lid closed, the systems activated, and she went to sleep. 50,000 soldiers, returning to their long rest, waiting for a call that might never come. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood in the Galactic Cooperative Council chamber, looking out at representatives from hundreds of species. They had all come to hear his message. Some were allies. Some were former enemies. Some had done nothing while the Velthari attacked. All of them were watching, waiting to hear what humanity would say. Ambassador Kim Yuna stood beside him. She nodded, and he stepped forward to speak. 300 years ago, humanity came to the stars. We came hoping to find friends. We came with medicine, with food, with technology, with everything we had to offer. We asked for nothing in return. We just wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. Many of you accepted our friendship. You traded with us, worked with us, built with us. To you, we offer our continued partnership and our gratitude. But some of you saw our kindness and called it weakness. You saw our patience and called it cowardice. You thought that because we chose not to fight, we could not fight. You thought you could take what you wanted from us without consequence." He paused, letting the silence fill the chamber. "You were wrong. We will always try harmony first. We will always offer peace before war, cooperation before conflict, friendship before hostility. Our hospitals will heal anyone who needs healing. Our farms will feed anyone who is hungry. Our schools will teach anyone who wants to learn. But know this: behind every doctor stands a soldier. Behind every farmer stands a warrior. Behind every teacher stands a guardian. We have seen the darkness in the universe, and we have prepared for it. We have weapons that your shields cannot stop, and tactics that your generals cannot predict. We have soldiers who have waited centuries for battle, and fleets that were hidden from your eyes. We do not want to use them. We pray that we never need to use them again. But if anyone threatens our people, if anyone tries to take what is ours, if anyone rejects our hand of friendship and reaches for a weapon instead, they will learn what we learned centuries ago about ourselves. Humanity is capable of anything. We can be the greatest healers in the galaxy or the greatest destroyers. We can be the kindest people you will ever meet or the most dangerous enemies you will ever face. The choice is not ours. It is yours. We tried harmony. We always will. But now you've met the other side of humanity." He stepped back. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, slowly, the chamber began to fill with applause, not just from humanity's allies, but from species that had feared them, doubted them, dismissed them. They understood now. They had seen both faces of humanity, and they respected both. Ambassador Kim Yuna walked with Admiral Park out of the chamber. "That was a good speech," she said. "It was the truth. What now?" Park looked up at the stars visible through the station windows. So many worlds, so many species, so many possibilities for both cooperation and conflict. Now we go back to being who we want to be. We heal. We build, we teach, we give, we show the universe the best of humanity. And if someone attacks us again, Admiral Park smiled, but there was steel in his eyes. Then we show them the rest. They walked back to their ship, leaving the council chamber behind. Around them, the galaxy continued to turn. Worlds spun on their axes. Ships traveled between stars. Species went about their lives, building and creating and growing, and watching over them all, ready to help or ready to fight, was humanity. Both sides of humanity, waiting,